Hello students, and welcome back to another lovely day of physical science. In today's lesson, we're actually going to learn more about that line of best fit, or that equation of a line that we talked about in one of our prior notes. So just taking a look at a graph again, I want to recap on what a y-intercept and what slope really are again. So if you look at data, again, you can have your own line of best fit. It might not always be the same, so these are three different examples that would be perfectly acceptable for line of best fit. You're going to have what is called your slope, which is this variable m that we'll talk about, and this graph would have a positive slope. That is, m has to be a positive value because the line is going up and to our right. Then these 3 points would represent our y-intercept or our b-value, so where that line crosses this y-intercept. And then over on this graph again, you have your, each one has a different y-intercept, but this would have a negative slope because the graph is going down and to the right. So the equation for line of best fit and what that, this m and this b represent is in this equation you have y equals mx plus b, where m is your slope and b is that y-intercept, or where the line crosses the y-axis. So let's go through and get some practice on actually solving for point m. Let's just say we had these 2 points. We have the point 1, 4 and 3, 5. Well, this line of best fit really should basically be the same for everybody because there's only 2 points. So you would just draw a line going through those 2 points. Well, when we solve for m now, we know that we have to get a positive answer because m is positive. It's going up and to the right. Well, in order to solve for m, we use this equation, that m is equal to the point y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, or a lot of times students know this as rise over run. So again, y meaning your rise, your up and down, x2 and x1 meaning your run, going left to right. It doesn't matter what you label this. If you want this to be 0.2, that's just fine. If you want 3, 5 to be 0.2, it doesn't matter as long as you're consistent. So if I go through and I label this as x1, this has to be point y1. The 4 has to be the point y1 because I'm calling these two point number 1. Point number 2 is going to be over here. So this is our x value and our y value. And this would be 0.2. So now all we do is we start plugging these numbers into the equation. So we have m is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So therefore, if we start plugging all of these in, we're going to say that m is equal to, and we bring in our y2 value, which we label as 5, minus our y1 value, which we label as 4, divided by our x2 value, which we label as 3, and our x1 value, which we label as 1. So when we plug that in, we're going to get 5 minus 4 is equal to 1, 3 minus 1 is equal to 2, so you get 1 divided by 2, which gives you an answer of 0.5. So therefore, the slope of this line is equal to 0.5. And yeah, that seems to make sense. So it's going up half of a layer, or I guess half of an increment for every time that it moves over. So that seems right, and it's a positive slope. We got a positive answer. Therefore, it seems to make sense. And then keep in mind, this would have a y-intercept if we went through and solved for it, which we're not going to do yet. This would have a y-intercept of about 3.5. So what I would like you to do now is please pause the video and try to solve for these problems on your own. Okay, now that you've had a chance to try those, I'm going to show you the answers, so this way you know if you got those correct. Just fast forward through the video and it'll save you a little bit of time. For those of you that did not get it correct, I would like you to please follow along as I solve for these. So for this one on the left with these 2 points, we get a slope of -2, and the ones on the right, you should have gotten an answer or a slope of 3. So if you got those correct, nice work. Fast forward the video until you see the next slide. For those of you that did not get it correct, please follow along as we solve for these. So we're going to again use our equation. m is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I need to label those points, and again, it doesn't matter. I usually just label the first one as x1, or as 0.1, second is going to be 0.2. So here, this would be our x1 variable, our y1 variable, x2 variable, y2 variable. And now we just start to plug those into the equation. So we have that m is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Therefore, we take our y2 value of 5 minus our y1 value of 3, and we divide that by our x2 value of 1 minus our x1 value of 2. When we plug this in, we're going to get 5 minus 3 is equal to 2, and 1 minus 2 is actually equal to negative 1. Well, 2 divided by negative 1 gives you that answer of negative 2. Then for this problem on the right, we're going to take our units, and I don't know, you don't have to rewrite them here, but I just do so we can plug in these x1 and y1 and x2 and x2 values. We're going to use our equation for slope, and again, we're just going to bring in y2 being our 0.4, y1 being our point negative 5, and it's still subtracting, so it's subtracting negative 5, and that's going to be important. Then we have x2, which is 1, and x1, which is negative 2 again. So you have to write minus negative. And with this, remember, if you subtract a negative number, that's actually the same thing as adding them. So when we say 4 minus a negative 5, I'm really just saying 4 plus 5. So therefore I'm going to get an answer of 9, and same thing here. 1 minus negative 2, that's the same thing as 1 plus 2. So therefore I'm going to get 9 divided by 3. When we do that, we get an answer of 3. Alright, now let's go through and actually solve for the entire equation. So far all we did is we learned how to solve for slope. We only solved for m. Well, we actually need to learn to solve for our b variable as well. So let's go through and do that. And that b is our y-intercept. So, steps for finding a line of best fit. First thing, you have to solve for slope, and we already learned how to do that. Then we need to choose one of those points, either 0.2 or 0.1. So either your y2 and your x2 or your y1 and your x1. It doesn't matter, you'll get the same answer. So you're going to have this equation that y equals mx plus b, or again y equals mx plus b, and you'll just see that I kept it color coded here, so you can plug in either your yellow values of 0.1 or your green values of 0.2. Step number 3, you're actually going to solve for this point b, and that's what we haven't done yet, but we'll go through and practice it. And then step number 4 is you need to plug m and b just back into this equation. All right, so I'm going to give you a practice problem. Some of you may have already done this, all of this graphing stuff in the past. Fantastic. Please just check the next few slides to see if you got the correct answer. So what I would like you to do now is, if you've done this before, please pause the video, try and solve for this, and I'll show you the answer here in a few seconds. If you have not done this, please just wait and we will go through and solve this together. Alright, for those of you that have tried this now, your answer should have been y is equal to 0.75x minus 1. If that's what you got for an answer, fantastic. You've probably done this before. Please just fast forward to the next slide and try the same thing. For those of you that didn't do this, don't stress about it. I don't expect you to do this. But let's go through and learn how to do this. So if we have these points 4, 2 and 8, 5, we need to label these as x1 and y1, x2 and y2. And then we're going to go through and solve for slope, just like we've already done in these notes. So we're going to use our equation that m is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So we start plugging in our units. So y2 was 5 minus y1 is 2. our x2 value is 8, and our x1 value of 4. So now we take 5 minus 2, gives us an answer of 3. We take 8 minus 4, gives us an answer of 4. And there's this thing in science, we don't like fractions a whole lot. It's actually better to use a decimal. So we're going to take 3 divided by 4 and get an answer of 0.75. Well, there we go. We found a slope of 0.75. Cool. Let's continue on because we want to get a full equation. That is, we want to get a full y equals mx plus b. So let's continue on. We're going to use our equation y equals mx plus b. And now there's just these like 3 other small rules that I'm going to add in here. And you really start to get used to these. So 1, you're going to plug in the value that you found for m. Okay. You're going to plug in either your x1 and y1 coordinates or x2 and y2 coordinates. It doesn't matter which ones. So I usually just pick 0.1, but you can pick 0.2. And then you're going to solve for the value of b, because that's what we're trying to do. We want to find where would the line intercept the y-axis. So we start plugging these in, and we're going to get, and again, I'm just going to pick 0.1. So my y value 1 is 2 is equal to our slope of 0.75 times, and I'm just going to use this asterisk to represent times or multiply, our x value of 4, and then plus b, which is what we're trying to solve for. So what we're going to do now is remember our order of operations, or PEMDAS, and we're going to take 0.75 times 4, and that's going to give us this equation that 2 is equal to 3, so that's what 0.75 times 4 is equal to 3 plus b. Well, we need to get b by itself. In order to do that, we need to ask, well, how do we get rid of 3? You do the opposite. So if we have a positive 3 here, well, to get rid of it, or what's the opposite of positive 3? Negative 3. So we're going to subtract 3 from this side. Well, there's this rule in math that whatever you do to one side of an equation, so if I subtract 3 from the right side, I have to do that same thing to the other side of the equation. So I need to subtract 3 from the left side. And that way we're keeping the equation the same, we're just changing it how we need. So now I'm going to take positive 3 is going to cancel with negative 3, which leaves us just with that variable b, which is what we want. And now we're going to take 2 minus 3, b is equal to negative 1. And now our last step is just write in the m and b values. So we're going to say that y is equal to 0.75, so again our m value, minus, in this case because we got a negative number here, so minus 1. And there you go. You now have found your line of best fit. So let's go through and try one more. What I would like you to do, please, is using these points, so using the point 3, negative 2, and 5, 3, I would like you to please try and solve for this on your own. And I will show you the answer here in a few seconds. All right, the correct answer to this problem is y is equal to 2.5x minus 9.5. If you got that, fantastic. Let's have you go one slide further ahead and try and solve for that one. If you didn't get it, that's okay. We haven't done a lot of these. Let's go through and solve for this one together. So again, I'm going to start off, and we need to label our x1 and y1 points and our x2 and y2. So we're going to find our slope. y2 is equal to 3. y1 is equal to negative 2. x2 is 5. And x1 is 3. Now what we need to do is please remember that subtracting a negative is the same as addition. So 3 minus a negative 2 is equal to 5. Divided by 5 minus 3 is equal to 2. Therefore, we're going to get an answer of 2.5. So our slope is equal to 2.5. Now we need to go through and solve for that b value. So y equals mx plus b. First value, plug in the value found for slope. Then again, you can pull in either your 1 or your 2 values. In this case, just to show you that it doesn't matter, I'm going to use my 0.2 values this time. It's just fine. And then solve for the value of b. So we're going to write out our equation. So my y value in this case is going to be 3. And that's going to be equal to our slope of 2.5 times our value of x, which is 5, and then plus that b value. So again, we're going to have to take this 2.5 times 5, and we will get an equation that now says 3 equals 12.5, and that 12.5 is 2.5 times 5 plus b. Again, we need to ask ourselves, well, what's the opposite of adding 12.5? Subtracting 12.5. So whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. Well, on this right side, 12.5 minus 12.5 is going to cancel out, and that leaves us with just this variable of b. And then on the left side, we're going to get 3 minus 12.5, and that's equal to negative 9.5. So therefore, our equation for this line of best fit is y equals 2.5x minus 9.5. And let's just do one last problem. Hopefully by this point, you're able to solve for this. So let's pause the video, and I would like you to try and solve this one on your own. And I will show you the answer here in a few seconds. All right, the correct answer to this question is y equals negative 1.33x plus 10.32. Yes, this one is, a little bit different of an answer. They're not nice, clean numbers. But that's okay. Your lines aren't always going to be nice and clean. If you got that, fantastic. You're done with this one. You can keep moving on. Otherwise, what I would like you to do is please follow along as we solve for this. So we're going to have our x1 and y1 and x2 and y2. We're going to find the slope. We're going to bring our y2 value of 1 minus y1 value of 5, our x2 value of 7 minus our x1 value of 4. 1 minus 5 is equal to negative 4. 7 minus 4 is equal to 3. And so we actually get kind of an ugly decimal, but again, decimals are better in science. And we're going to get an answer of negative 1.33. And that's going to be our slope. Then we're going to solve for our y-intercept. That is y equals mx plus b. And we're going to have our 3 steps again, plugging in m, plugging in a value of x and y, and then solving for b. So if we plug in our y value of 5 again, I'm just going to go back and use my first points this time. Y value of 5 is equal to our slope of negative 1.33 times our x value of 4 plus b. Therefore, we're going to get, and this is where the numbers start to get kind of ugly, 4 times 1.33, or specifically times negative 1.33, is negative 5.32 plus b. So now in this case, I need to think, what's the opposite of a negative 5.32? Well, it's actually a positive 5.32. So I'm going to add 5.32 to each side of this equation. The negative 5.32 cancel out the positive. So again, we're left with just b. And then we have 5 plus 5.32. So therefore, b is equal to 10.32. Now we just rewrite that in our equation. Therefore, y is equal to negative 1.33x plus 10.32. And you have your final answer. Congratulations, you now know how to solve for a line of best fit when you have your 2 points.